I didn't know you'd be joining me for this.
Oh, would you not like me to?
No, it's good. Do you fit?
Yes.
I mean, I think we all are. But most of what I'm dealing with in that story is mostly physical, but it's definitely played a huge role into how I'm doing, like, mentally. And I know I made a video last time about how I dealt with postpartum with Booker. So now that I'm in the mood to be so sharing and vulnerable, I thought better do it now before I change my mind. But wouldn't you say this time my postpartum's been different than it was with Booker?
Yeah.
I feel like
I think it's much different.
I'm less sad and less depressed and less disconnected.
That's the word I would use.
Disconnected?
Disconnected.
Yeah, like I definitely feel like I am present for my kids. I still enjoy doing things that I normally would enjoy doing, like working out, hanging with my family, going to dinner, looking cute like twice a month, you know what I mean? But I feel like my anxiety is a lot worse this time. Well, let's just start at the beginning. So if you didn't see my last video with Booker, we were not planning on having Booker, and it was during a really like big part of our relationship and lives that we found out we were going to be parents. And I can't get this allergies here are crazy and I've been crying. So it was right before Brandon's last year of football. We had literally gotten engaged 4 days before finding out we were going to have a baby. And at that point I felt like I was like living my best life. Like, looking back now, it was not the best time of my life, but at that point I really thought like so many things that I dealt with in the past, like my eating disorder, just being unhappy, not knowing what I wanted to do with my life, all of that stuff. Like I felt like that all of that was on the right track, and I was finally in a happy, healthy relationship, happy with myself. I had amazing friends. My family was healthy. I just felt really good. So I was actually really pissed and angry. And throughout my entire pregnancy, I felt completely disconnected to Booker. I never ever felt truthfully excited to be a mom. I never felt maternal instincts. I guess I was excited to like meet him because of what I'd always been told, right? Like, you're gonna have an overwhelming instant love for your child and it completely changes you. I can't describe it until nobody can describe it. You have to experience it. So I guess that was like what I was using to like keep going and get through the hypermesis, and that definitely wasn't helping. The constant throwing up, nausea, just completely like destroying my body. So once he got here, I had zero connection. So I gave it a few days, and I will say that the postpartum like physical stuff I was not prepared for. You definitely were not prepared for it.
No.
Nobody tells you the severity of, and if you're watching this, and you don't want to be hearing this, I don't care, you're watching it. So skip through the next minute. But I mean, the insane amount of bleeding, like the constipation, obviously your body's tired, but it's like worse than that's the worst part of pregnancy for me both times. I hated it with Bex too, but just constantly like feeling gross and dirty, and every time you move, like feeling like you need to go to the bathroom, and every time, I mean, I was still nauseous and everything, didn't want to eat. It was disgusting. I honestly felt gross. I didn't want to see anyone. And then on top of that, trying to breastfeed, which was not going well. One, I hated it, not because it wasn't going well. I just genuinely don't like it. But yes, it hurts in the beginning. My son, Booker, ate for 20 minutes on each boob every hour. So I got 20 minutes off once an hour. And it was just overtaking me. And I felt so much guilt for wanting to stop. And everyone, I would get messages like, I'm so glad you're breastfeeding. And I get where they're coming from, but it also made me not just listen to my body and listen to my baby. And I prolonged that far too long. And I think that was a big part of the severe depression I had. But it was so bad with Booker. I felt like I was babysitting someone else's child and that my life was ruined. And I hate saying that now, but I genuinely, there were times when you were at practice and I would just like leave him in the house and I would go sit in the car and like contemplate leaving. And I hate like admitting that. Nobody tells you there are many people who don't feel connected to their child when they're born or even for months after. And I've like never admitted that to anyone besides Brandon. Obviously, it ended up getting better. Not for any other reason than time. I didn't really do anything to help it because I didn't feel like I had anyone to talk to about it. I didn't know anyone who had shared the same experience. So I felt like a complete monster. I felt like I was the only person that didn't feel some sort of connection to their own child. Then after that, I feel like my anxiety started more than depression. I never felt anxiety or dealt with it in my life. You have.
Yes.
Definitely. And I guess I never, when you would be anxious in our relationship in the past, I never really could sense that it was anxiety. I thought he was just being a dick or like being moody.
Being over stressful.
Yeah,
overthinking.
Yeah, like unnecessarily being in his head. And I was like, well, just like, don't think about it that way. Like, I never really understood anxiety and I never saw his struggles as like mental health related. I just thought he was being too tough on himself. And I thought this was a football culture thing. It was, I don't know.
The way it is.
I mean, it is, but I just thought it was like, if you want to change the way that you're thinking, you can. And you're sabotaging yourself. You're making it harder on all of us, all these things. And then I finally understood what anxiety felt like. And even though mine manifested differently, I became, I guess, like a huge busybody and like wouldn't slow down and try to do everything. And I guess that's what I had dealt with until, or still do, but until we decided, with our 7-minute conversation to have Bex. That's a story for a different day. But I immediately was, with Bex, I was immediately connected through that pregnancy. I mean, I was taking pregnancy tests like a week after I thought I could be pregnant, knowing that it was going to say negative, but I wanted so badly to be pregnant because I now knew what it felt like to be a mom and having Booker just be like the center of our lives. So I wouldn't say this time it was an overwhelming connection. I still have yet to feel that But I definitely was not disconnected. I loved him. I was excited he was here. I was more prepared this time. Like anything, once you do something, if you do it again, you feel better about it. I was better with postpartum. I was way more prepared. Holy shit, way more prepared. And this time I was a lot better about not doing things that I didn't want to do just because I felt like that's what society wanted me to do. This time I didn't give a shit at all what people thought about how I was dealing with postpartum, how I was raising my kids, and that helped so much.
You can see that it helps so much.
Oh my God, it helps so much. So if you're a first-time mom and you're watching this, that's my one piece of advice, is literally just do what you want, do what your body tells you, do what your baby's telling you, and it will help tremendously. I think overall, comparatively, it's been night and day. You might disagree, but for me, it feels night and day.
I would completely agree.
I definitely have a lot of I feel like guilt, like with Booker, because like I know it's not going to affect him in the long run, but just like the way that I've been with like Bex as a newborn compared to Booker is like, because I love them both, you know. And I'm like grateful that I've been able to enjoy the newborn stage with Bex. But it does make me feel really bad that I didn't give that to Booker, and I honestly like am sad that I didn't get that experience with him, because that's like my first baby, you know. I guess I just have lots of anxiety this time. I know I look sad and depressed right now just because I've had a really frustrating past week and morning. But I would definitely say this time my struggles lie with anxiety over the littlest things even. So like there are times I feel like I have so much to get done and I get so overwhelmed that I don't get anything done, and I can't stop my mind, and I get such bad mood swings from it, and then I just want to lay down and like escape the world. Or some days I'm just like go go go, busy busy busy. But yeah, if you watch my stories this morning, and if you're watching this a year from now and you have no idea what my stories were, moving to a new city and trying to find all new doctors, everything, you guys. Like I never really realized, I guess I knew like everything would be new, but I never realized like a new pharmacy, a new primary care,
even as far as new insurance.
When there's stuff that you're dealing with that needs to be dealt with. You know what I mean? During a global pandemic, and your issues have nothing to do with COVID, it's really been challenging to receive even adequate levels of care. And I understand that the system is completely overworked. Nurses are exhausted. Everyone's working overtime. They're understaffed. Doctors are just seeing as many patients as possible. But I understand things are going to take longer. That's not, I guess, where my issue is. My issue, I guess, is with feeling like someone does care about what you're going through. Even if it's not COVID, even if it's, life-threatening or not, whatever it may be. and just to be like kind and like sympathetic. I've just in the past week had so many dismisses and so many tones spoken to me and eye rolls and being on hold for almost 2 hours, and which I get, but I think when it all like adds up and it's like constant, just one day after another with no answers and knowing something's wrong, not only does it add to your anxiety, but it's really frustrating to like go through it alone and not feel like the people that are supposed to be caring for you actually do care that much about it. And this is just how I feel. I'm not saying any of these people are bad people, but my feelings are valid. I'm allowed to have them, and my experience that I've had is my experience. And I guess that's what prompted me to share all of this with you. But because I know that like after you have a baby, not only is your body going to be different, you're going to have weird symptoms, you're going to have things happen to you you've never experienced or knew could happen. You're going to feel things that you've never felt before, or you might not feel anything at all. And that for me was the scariest part of my motherhood journey. But whatever you're like dealing with, I guess if you have a significant other, the best thing you can do is just be honest with them and not try and mask it to be strong or be embarrassed. And if you don't have a significant other, find someone who will listen to you and talk to you. And if you or even someone who feels like they truly have no one, they don't have money for a therapist, no insurance, whatever it is, there are hotlines to call. When I had my eating disorder, I called the hotline so many times. There's always resources. There's communities out there that deal with the same thing that you're dealing with. So truthfully, 100%, I know that nobody is ever alone. And it's like really, really normal, whether you've had a baby or not, to feel these things, especially right now. And hopefully me telling you some of my darkest secrets that I've never told anyone besides Brandon, that it just encourages you to share it, whatever it is, because it will help.
I would say one of the biggest things that I would want to say is...
You would say the biggest thing you want to say?
That for the people who are caring for somebody who's going through things like this, like pregnancy, postpartum, whatever it is you just have to be patient. I think one of the things that I struggled with at first was when I started here, when she first told me, oh, I'm feeling anxious, I feel a lot of anxiety, I'm like, oh, I got this down pat. I know exactly what to do. I know exactly what to tell her to do. I know exactly how we can take care of this. But to my surprise and to what I know now, everybody's struggles are different. And so I just had to learn to be patient and to, it's not always going to be right. You're not always going to be right. I had to learn different strategies, different ways to make her feel better that I would have never thought would.
And also I feel like every single day is different for me.
Yeah.
So you're constantly having to adapt to that.
So be flexible, adapt, and I mean, at the end of the day, this is the person that you love so much and that you want to take care of for the rest of your life. Like, and
yeah, even if you're watching this and your sister had a baby, like this goes for you too. Your number one support system doesn't have to be your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your significant other at all. It doesn't have to be that. I mean, my best friend Olivia has gotten me like through some of the worst times. And there are times I tell her things weeks before I tell Brandon.
That's the biggest thing. I don't think there's some things you can't do as a
And you have to
support
accept
person.
that.
And it's hard to accept, but you have to. I mean, it's just there's some things you can't do.
There can't just be one person who does all of it for you. It gets so much better, so much quicker when you do ask for help. And it's been night and day with Bex and Booker simply because I've been so open and vulnerable with the people I love and the people I trust. And I have my bad days. I have my moody days. I have days where I go back to bed to Brandon and I'm like, I'm so sorry for today. And he's just been perfect.
No.
No, you have.
Definitely not.
Remarkably, I feel like we are stronger now, me going through this, than we ever have been when I've been at my best mental state.
I would agree.
I love you. Bye-bye. Your longer arms.